Lock 1, similar to other schools, has adopted a uniform policy in an attempt to create serenity on campus. But in life, all possessions come with a price. And with that said, what is the price of the uniform policy? Although the uniform policy has relieved Locke of his original chaotic state, some problems remain. The tension on campus hasn't been resolved, but instead strengthened due to the separation of Locke, and each school having their own style of uniform. Eventually, fights broke out between schools, such as the lunch brawls during the previous school year, in which Lock 1 and 3 seemed to fight whenever they had the opportunity to do so. After I interviewed a group of students, I was able to conclude that they believe the uniforms has caused tension between schools, and the conditions outside of schools are just as dangerous as before. Uniforms are supposed to have a positive effect on our education by erasing poverty lines, preventing students from ditching, and stopping gang tension. However, it doesn't always go as planned. The poverty lines aren't erased because the conditions of a student's uniform can be an indicator of how much his or her family has, and the removal of the policy has a greater social effect than an educational effect. Uniform won't get rid of gang tension because gang tension comes from the community. As long as the community has gangs, gang tension will exist on our campus. I interviewed a group of students about the uniform policy. They both agree that the uniforms were ugly and plain. However, one of them said an interesting statement that uniforms didn't allow students to express who they are, that teachers encouraged them to be leaders instead of followers, but they're not allowed to be themselves, that they had to look a certain way because a higher power decided it was necessary. The concept that we are being taught to be future leaders but aren't allowed to be ourselves is irritating. Leaders are individuals, but how can we be individuals, or in other words, how can we be leaders if we aren't allowed to be ourselves? Students should have some control of what they wear because force will only be met with opposition and animosity. More importantly, instead of worrying about what students wear, the focus should be on what students come from. It's pointless to dress a student in a certain way because their surroundings have a great effect on their education than their clothing.